Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Anique and this is 3am Thoughts. Before we continue with the story, I need to pause and talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough. Donor eggs. The questions that keep you up at 3am. The ones you never say out loud because it feels disloyal. And the science I didn't understand until much later about epigenetics, about how your body shapes the baby even when DNA begins elsewhere. Now, this isn't part of the chronological story. This is the conversation that we need to have. So let's unpack it. The number of people using donor eggs is increasing. The conversations around it need to increase too. It's no surprise I chose donor eggs. It's on the introduction page of my blog. But it's a loaded question, especially depending on where you are on your journey. You could be in your 20s with premature ovarian failure. Maybe you've been trying for years unsuccessfully. Maybe you've tried adoption and were rejected. Perhaps you already have a child with your own eggs, but you're over 40 now and the statistics favour donor eggs. Wherever you are, whatever you've been through, the decision to go with donor eggs can be hard, traumatic even. It comes with needing to grieve a fundamental part of you. Many of the questions, they're not about the process. They're personal, emotional. They may not even be about you. You're trying to work through your feelings. You're reaching for acceptance. A lot of mine were about bonding. At that point, I didn't even consider that the first IVF round wouldn't take. It was all about, would I bond with the baby? Would the baby bond with me? Would it be as it would have been with my own egg? Would I feel the same way as other mothers do? Would I still have that same maternal connection? Like, what would it do to my relationship with Marco? What if I don't bond with the baby and Marco leaves me? Would the baby look anything like me? Would the baby feel like my baby? The list went on. And all the time I was coming to terms with the fact that my window had closed. It had slammed shut. I seemed to have landed straight into menopause. I felt old, past it, like put out to pasture when I had so much more life to live. I mean, Marco and I hadn't been together long, not even 2 years before we started trying, before I was ill. And at this point, we'd been on this roller coaster for nearly 3 years. I know in terms of fertility journeys, that's not long compared to some, but it felt endless. I'll get into it in a couple of chapters, but the birth didn't go as planned, which was fine, but it was one of the scenarios I wanted to avoid because I was worried how it would affect my bond with my baby. The baby was placed on my chest and I didn't feel the rush of hormones that I was expecting, that I was told would happen. I know now it was the situation. in that moment, while I was holding the baby, there was a lot going on. And also, I had my expectations and me dissecting my own reaction. When I was on the ward with my baby on my chest, Marco by my side, all those bonding questions and worries simply melted away. Every one of them. Every burble, every stretch, every rub of the face, every move the baby made me love them even more. One of my favourite photos is of our baby lying on Marco's chest in the hospital, and they're both sleeping. And in that moment where I took that photo, I thought my heart would explode. And I've had so many of those moments since. So many that I wonder why I was even worried. But that doesn't minimize the importance of those questions. One of the questions I never said out loud because it felt disloyal even thinking about it was whether I was interchangeable. If another woman could provide the egg, what exactly made me the mother? It took me some time to realize that motherhood was never a single biological moment. It's a relationship built over thousands of ordinary ones. It's something that I didn't understand then, something I learned later, is that using donor eggs doesn't mean you're somehow biologically separate from your baby. The DNA may begin elsewhere, but pregnancy is not passive. Your body isn't just carrying the baby, it's shaping one. Throughout pregnancy, your hormones, your immune system, your nutrients, your rhythm, your environment, all of it influences how genes are expressed and how that tiny little human develops. Science calls it epigenetics, but really it means this. Your body teaches the baby how to grow. You regulate their world before they ever see it. You build the environment their brain, metabolism, and nervous system learn from long before birth. There's conversation happening between mother and baby at a cellular level. My body was still part of the story. Deeply, actively, undeniable. I wasn't stepping outside the biology of motherhood. I was living another version of it. So that connection I was so worried about, whether they look like me, I still have a huge part to play in that, even before they were born. Now, there's nature versus nurture. Marco's always telling me that they're stubborn like me. Although I tell Marco that they're stubborn like him. The journey, the questions, the uncertainty, they all took me, us, to one place. And now I would not change that for the world. If I could sit beside the version of me Googling donor eggs at 3 a.m, I wouldn't give her statistics. or reassurance, I'd just tell her this: love doesn't arrive all at once. It grows quietly in the repetition of care until one day you realize it was never missing. The questions didn't disappear overnight. Some of them still visit occasionally, usually around 3 a.m. But they don't carry fear anymore. Just curiosity about how many different ways there are to become a family. Because no matter how it arrives, when you become a mother, when you look after a child, it's all those tiny little moments that build your bond, build your love, build the connection. And you feel it. It's something that you can feel deep in your soul. Now, this conversation isn't easy. The questions aren't easy. The grief of losing your own eggs isn't easy. If you're Googling donor eggs at 3 a.m. or even asking ChatGPT right now, if you're asking yourself whether you're bond, whether you're interchangeable, whether the baby will feel like yours, those questions are all valid. They're important. They don't make you a bad person or a bad future mother. They make you human. And I can tell you now, though I won't minimize what you're feeling in this moment, that epigenetics is real. Your body will shape that baby. The conversation between you happens at a cellular level. You're not outside the biology, you're living another version of it. In the next chapter, we'll get back to the story. We'll talk about preparing for our IVF cycle, the medication battles, the clinics, the catalogue of errors, and finally the pregnancy test. But I needed to pause here to have this conversation, to tell you that the questions are endless, but you're not alone in them. Your voice deserves to be heard always. If this resonates with you, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Comment with your own experience if you feel comfortable, and know whether you're considering donor eggs in the middle of treatment or on the other side of holding your baby. You're not interchangeable. You're the mother. Take care, and I'll see you next time on 3.